Last week, I almost missed it. Multiple nights, I found myself lying wide awake at like 3 o'clock in the morning, brain spinning, feeling like absolute garbage. I posted a screenshot of my sleep data, and three different people reached out to me with what was honestly great advice. They said, it totally sounds like perimenopause. You should check your hormones, even suggested trying oral progesterone. And I really value that because for so many women, that likely is the answer. I even booked the doctor's appointment. But then I started looking back at my own data and I realized that for me, in this specific moment, the internet was right about the symptoms, but wrong about the cause. It wasn't my hormones. It was a metabolic glitch that I had triggered myself. Today, I'm showing you why even the best advice won't work if it's based on the wrong data. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm an online personal trainer, and I spend my time helping real folks get strong for real life. And today's episode, it's a little bit different because it's deeply personal. It's about my own journey this week. And I think there's a lot in here that's going to resonate with some of you. But before I get into the sleep stuff, I want to give you a quick update on where I am with the switch to Zepbound or Tirzepatide. So I've been seeing a pretty consistent downward trend on the scale, that's always nice. My appetite is definitely impacted. I'm eating way, way less. And I have been really genuinely successful at breaking the daily, like sometimes 2 to 3 times a day sweet habit that I have had for a really long time. And here's a real example of what that looks like in practice. The bungalow that I work in gets used by other teachers for professional development or meetings. Earlier in the week, there was a group of teachers there. Shout out to those middle school math folks. And the presenter brought donuts, and somebody brought in this small box of chocolate chip cookies. And when the group left, the cookies got left behind. They're still there. And that is definitely a change and a win for me. Because even when I was on Ozempic, especially toward the end of my time on Ozempic, turning things like that down had gotten genuinely difficult. And that brings me to something I really wanted to talk about today, because I think it's something either you could relate to completely or possibly have heard about, but maybe don't really understand because it's not something you experience. It's a term called food noise. I think it's a sort of new term within maybe the last 5 years or so. At least I hadn't heard of it before 5 years ago. But the first time I heard it, it was an absolute light bulb moment. Because first of all, it was an incredible relief to know that other people had similar things happening in their brain. But it was also pretty interesting to realize that not everyone experiences this, that there are people out there who just don't have it. So let me give you an example of what food noise looks like for me. So I really like Reese's peanut butter cups. Actually, I really like the holiday version of Reese's peanut butter cups because the peanut butter to chocolate ratio is definitely superior to a regular Reese's. It's just more peanut butter. It's better. Anyway, I digress. So when I was focused on losing weight and being in a calorie deficit, Reese's peanut butter cups, they don't exactly fit into my calories on a regular basis. But what would happen is I would think about the peanut butter cup. I would tell myself no. And then 5 minutes later, I'm thinking about the peanut butter cup again. And I have to tell myself no again. And then again and again. That loop, having to make that same decision over and over on repeat, it's exhausting. And actually, for me, anxiety producing. For some people, I think just that one no is enough and they can move on. For me, I had to keep fighting that battle all day long. And often, at some point, the willpower would just run out. That's how food noise kind of worked for me. I'd be interested to know if it was similar for any of you out there as well. What does food noise feel like for you if you experience it? That is what the Ozempic quieted down in the beginning. I would think about the peanut butter cup or some other sweet treat, tell myself no, and that was kind of it. It wasn't this back and forth all day long thing. But about 6 months in, that quieting had started to get less effective. And by the end of my time on Ozempic, I found myself walking to the donut shop much more regularly, which is something I just hadn't done in a long time. Sometimes I think the voice in my head stopped even trying to negotiate and just won. But because of the Ozempic, the appetite control was still there. So I was eating maybe one donut instead of two, but the noise in my brain was definitely back. Since switching to Zepbound, I feel much stronger support for this. The noise is quieter in a way that actually feels sustainable. And look, I want to be really honest about something here. Part of the reason my content on Instagram kind of dropped off when I was on Ozempic was that I wasn't seeing the kind of success I was hoping to see. And I think the honest reason for that is I was waiting for the magic. I wasn't doing a good job of combining the medication with the habits and the foundations that I work so hard on teaching my clients. I kind of just sat back and expected the medication to be the thing. It's kind of like the electrician's house that always needs the wiring fixed or the light bulb changed, right? I have the skills. I know what to do. I help other people do it all the time, but I wasn't doing it for myself. But this time feels different. I'm tracking my calories. I got back to consistent strength training, which I actually scaled back to only 20 or 30-minute sessions in the gym instead of trying to force 45 minutes. And what that's doing is just getting me over the barrier of even starting. What I'm doing in the gym right now is 1,000 times better than doing nothing. And that is something I say to my clients constantly. But it's really nice to be living it again myself. I have seen a lot of people online say that these medications are the lazy way of losing weight. What those people don't understand is that it still takes work. It takes showing up. The difference is when you're not spending every ounce of your mental energy fighting your brain, you actually have the capacity to do the work. And for somebody like me, who has struggled with obesity, honestly, since elementary school, knowing that there is a tool that can kind of level the playing field, it's everything. It makes a really, really big difference. Real quick, if any of what I'm describing today sounds familiar and you're looking for someone to help you actually connect the dots between your data and your daily habits, I currently have openings for one-on-one online coaching. What I do is take the mental load off your plate, the figuring out what to do, how to do it, what the data means. So all you have to do is show up and execute. If you want to know more, the link to apply is in the show notes. Okay, let's talk about sleep. Last week, I posted a screenshot from my sleep tracker showing this big stretch where I was awake at 3 a.m. And I got several responses from really well-meaning people saying it's probably perimenopause, that I should check my hormones, that oral progesterone has really helped them. And I want to be clear, I'm 48 and absolutely likely in the beginning stages of perimenopause. So those weren't bad suggestions. I even scheduled a doctor's appointment in May to talk about it because that conversation is probably worth having regardless. But here's the thing. A couple days after I posted that, I was looking at my sleep tracker again and something caught my eye. My resting heart rate, RHR, had dropped considerably, and my heart rate variability, my HRV, had increased by a lot as well. And on paper, those are really positive changes. A lower resting heart rate, a higher HRV, trackers celebrate those numbers. But when I looked at the graphs and the actual date those changes started, and I lined that up with when I switched to Zepbound and when I started waking up at 3 a.m., the timing was too clean. It definitely wasn't a coincidence. So I started doing some deeper research. And here's what I think was actually happening in my body. GLP-1 medications like the Zepbound that I'm on work in part by improving insulin sensitivity, which is one of the big reasons that they're used for people with type 2 diabetes. In your body, your blood sugar naturally dips in the middle of the night. That's completely normal. But when I switched to Zepbound, the medication was working so efficiently at clearing glucose from my blood that my blood sugar was dropping lower than it should, what's called hypoglycemia. And here's the thing about hypoglycemia in the middle of the night. Your body, it's pretty amazing, is not going to just let that happen quietly. When blood sugar drops too low, your body releases a cortisol spike to bring it back up. Cortisol is like your get up and find sugar hormone. And cortisol does not ease you gently awake. It wakes you up fully, which is exactly what was happening to me in the middle of the night. I wasn't groggy. I wasn't half asleep. I was completely 100% wide awake, brain spinning, thinking about work stuff, life stuff, a full hamster wheel effect. That spinning brain wasn't anxiety and it wasn't hormones. It was cortisol doing its job. Now, this is important because this is exactly why people thought it was perimenopause. A hormonal wake up from dropping progesterone levels looks almost identical from the outside. Your body also releases a cortisol spike in response to a progesterone drop. So the function is very much the same. You become fully awake, your brain is going, and you can't get back to sleep. The difference for me was just the timing. The wake up started exactly when I switched the medication. That's what made me think it was metabolic, not hormonal. So let's talk for a minute about what HRV actually is, because I think this is important for anyone who has a fitness tracker like a Garmin, an Apple Watch, one of those Oura rings. Almost any fitness tracker these days gives you an HRV score. HRV stands for heart rate variability, and it measures the variation in time between your heartbeats. Think of your heart rate variability as a measure of your body's resilience, its ability to accomplish things. Most people think that a healthy heart is like a metronome, that it hits a perfectly steady beat. But a metronome is rigid. In the world of health, rigidity is actually a sign of stress. When your heart rhythm is too perfect, it's often because one side of your nervous system has taken the wheel and it is not letting go. When you're at your healthiest, your heart is actually much more reactive and unpredictable. Think about a rubber band. Low HRV is like a rubber band that has lost its stretch. It's stiff. If you pull it too hard and add stress, it might snap. High HRV is like a brand new stretchy rubber band. It can expand, it can handle heavy lifting sessions, and then snap right back into its baseline when you're resting. Your heart is like that, constantly caught in a friendly tug of war between two sides of your autonomic nervous system. Am I taking you back to biology class? The sympathetic side, the gas pedal, it's like your fight or flight side. It wants to speed things up to deal with stress. The parasympathetic, or the brake pedal, this is your rest and digest side. It wants to slow things down and recover. When these two sides are healthy and talk to the heart, the time between your heartbeats varies constantly. One beat might be 0.8 seconds apart, and the next might be 1.2 seconds. That variation is your HRV. A high HRV score means your body is listening to both the gas and the brake. It means you are balanced, recovered, and ready to adapt to whatever the day throws at you. But here's the nuance that I think gets lost. What's most important is not your number on any given day. It's your trend. Your HRV is deeply individual. A high HRV for you might look completely different from someone else's. The trackers tell you higher is better, and in the big picture, that's true. But a sudden spike in HRV can actually be a red flag. Here's why mine was spiking. HRV is affected by blood volume. And one thing GLP medications can do, especially when combined with eating a much cleaner, less processed diet, which I was doing, is it shifts your electrolyte balance. I was eating significantly less sodium, potassium, and magnesium than my body had been used to. When those electrolytes drop, your blood volume can drop with them. And when your blood volume changes, your heart literally has to change its rhythm to compensate. My high HRV wasn't a sign of great health in that moment. It was a sign of stress. My heart was compensating, not thriving. And the resting heart rate drop reinforce this. GLP-1 medications typically increase resting heart rate by about 5 to 10 beats. So the fact that mine went down significantly was a signal that something was not quite right. All of that put together told me that it was a metabolic issue. My body was adjusting to the medication faster than I was supporting it. Now, before I dig into what I did and why, I need to put a big caveat here. I'm sharing what I did based on my specific data. These aren't universal healthy moves for everyone. For example, I'm going to talk about how I added extra sodium via electrolytes. And for me, with the low blood volume that I was having, it was a game changer. But it could be the totally wrong move for somebody who's managing high blood pressure. My goal isn't for you to think that what I'm telling you about is like the exact grocery list that you should go out and get. It's just so that you can see the process of how I use the data to stop guessing. You always want to talk to your own doctor before you start making a bunch of changes, taking supplements or electrolytes, especially if you're on medication. But what did I do? So the first thing I did was focus on electrolytes. I started using the sugar-free version of liquid IV once a day around like 10 a.m. By replenishing those electrolytes, specifically sodium, potassium, and magnesium, the blood volume is supported and it helps the heart maintain a healthier rhythm. It was probably the most immediate and quickest lever I could pull. The second thing is almonds. I added plain whole almonds at 2 points in my day. I have some around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which helps bridge the energy gap in the late afternoon slump. And then this is the interesting one. I have 6 almonds about an hour before I go to bed. The reasoning here is to give my liver a small reserve of fats, fiber, and protein to work with overnight. So when the normal blood sugar dip happens in the middle of the night, my body doesn't hit a wall. It has a small buffer to draw from. The goal is to reduce the severity of the drop so that the cortisol alarm doesn't have to go off at all and wake me up in the middle of the night. The third thing I did was added magnesium glycinate. I take this at night now with the 6 almonds. I know 6 is so random. 6 to 8 was the recommendation. Caveat here, again, there are several different types of magnesium out there. Choosing the right one matters. If you grab magnesium citrate, you're not going to sleep better. You're just going to spend the night running to the bathroom. It's a laxative. I wanted the magnesium glycinate. It's called the chill magnesium. It works with an amino acid called glycine that tells your nervous system that it's time to dial it down. It helps lower your core body temperature slightly, and it physically just relaxes your muscles. For me, it's the difference between laying there with tight shoulders and actually being able to just sink into the mattress. It's not a sedative that knocks you out. It just clears the path so that you can drift off more naturally. So here's what I'll tell you about the first night that I followed this full protocol. I did get more deep sleep. And when I woke up in the middle of the night, which I still did, I woke up, but I did not have that spinning brain. I was not fully awake and buzzing. I woke up probably because of the cats, and I went back to sleep, which was for me a massive win compared to how it had been. So I want to close with this. This whole deep dive into my sleep, it's not really about the sleep. It's about the fact that even as a professional, I got overwhelmed by the noise. I almost ignored my own data because everyone else had a simple answer. That's exactly why I do what I do. My goal isn't to be a sleep expert. I'm definitely not a hormone expert, although I am learning more. It's to be the person in your corner who helps you make sense of your life. Most people are drowning in data. Just about everyone I know has some sort of fitness tracker, but they don't necessarily have a plan. You have the watch, you have the supplements, you might even have medications, but you don't have a clear path. I have some coaching spots open for people who are ready to stop crowdsourcing their health from the internet and start building a path that actually belongs to them. I'll be the one to help you look at the trends, filter out the noise, and figure out the next best move for your body. If you want a partner in this, someone to help you take that mental load off your plate so you can just focus on feeling better, let's talk. The link to apply is in the show notes, or you can reach out to me on any of my social media platforms. I hope today's episode gave you at least one thing you can actually use this week, whether it's the magnesium glycinate, almonds, or just a reminder to look at your own trends before you take the internet's word for it. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your journey today. Keep showing up and building your strength for the journey.